Ray Wilson wiped his oil-stained hands on a rag that had seen better days, just like a small auto repair shop in the outskirts of Millfield. The calendar on the wall marked another lonely Tuesday, exactly 7 years since that rainy April evening when his life shattered like a broken headlight. He glanced at the framed photo on his cluttered desk. 2 identical 4-year-old girls with pigtails and missing 2 smiles. Emma and Lily, his reason for breathing, his everything. The memory still stung like an open wound. The note on the kitchen table, the empty closet, the confused cries of his daughters asking where Mommy went, and the 3 words that had haunted him ever since, "I can't anymore." Melissa had walked out on them with nothing but a hastily scribbled explanation about feeling trapped, about dreams unfulfilled, about needing to find herself. No warning. No real goodbye. Just gone. Daddy. Twin voices broke through his thoughts as the shop's side door burst open. Emma and Lily, now 11, tumbled in with backpacks bouncing and matching braids swinging. "There are my girls." Ray's weathered face transformed instantly, deep creases giving way to a genuine smile that reached his tired eyes. How was school today? As the twins launched into animated stories about science experiments and playground politics, Ray's gaze drifted briefly to the leaky roof he couldn't afford to fix, the stack of bills hidden in his top drawer, and the eviction notice he'd managed to negotiate an extension on again. None of that mattered when he looked at his daughters. 7 years of working 18-hour days, of learning to braid hair and bake birthday cakes, of pretending everything was fine when he was terrified of failing them. 7 years of being both mom and dad. "Can we help you with the Johnson car?" Emma asked, already reaching for the junior-sized toolbox Ray had given them for Christmas. "You know the rules," Ray said, tousling their hair. "Homework first, then garage time." The girls groaned but nodded. This was their rhythm, their dance, the 3 of them against the world. Little did Ray know, the world was about to throw them another curveball that would test everything he thought he knew about forgiveness, strength, and what it truly means to be a family. The apartment above Ray's garage wasn't much 2 small bedrooms, a kitchenette with appliances from the previous century, and a living room barely large enough for their second-hand couch. But Ray had worked miracles with the space, turning it into a home where laughter echoed off the walls and love filled every corner. "I can't do this. I'm never going to understand fractions." Emma threw her pencil across the kitchen table, tears welling in her eyes. Ray sighed, glancing at the clock. It was nearly midnight, and he had to be up at 5 to open the shop. But Emma's frustration was more important than sleep. "Let's try a different way," he said gently, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. "See, if I cut this into 4 equal parts." From the beginning, the twins had shown different strengths. Emma was analytical and detail-oriented, taking after Ray with her fascination for how things worked. Lily was the people person, charming, persuasive, and always ready with a hug when someone needed it. "Mr. Wilson?" Mrs. Parker's gentle voice called from the doorway. The elderly neighbor had become their unofficial grandmother, watching the girls after school when Ray couldn't close the shop early. "I brought over some lasagna. There's enough for tomorrow's dinner, too." Ray's pride wanted to refuse, but his empty refrigerator wouldn't allow it. "You're an angel, Mrs. Parker. I don't know how to thank you." "Nonsense. Those girls are the light of my life," she said, watching as Lily demonstrated a dance move she'd learned at school. "Besides, someone needs to make sure you eat something besides those awful frozen burritos." The first few years had been the hardest. Ray had sold almost everything of value to keep the shop afloat and put food on the table. His own father had taught him that a man provides no matter what, and Ray was determined to live up to that legacy. There were nights when the twins were asleep, and Ray would sit alone at the kitchen table, bills spread out before him, calculating and recalculating, trying to stretch dollars like rubber bands. Sometimes, in those quiet moments, he allowed himself to wonder where Melissa was, what she was doing, if she ever thought about the 3 hearts she left behind. But morning always came, bringing with it twin voices calling Daddy, and tiny arms wrapping around his neck. And in those moments, Ray found the strength to push aside his exhaustion and face another day. "Why don't we have a mommy?" Lily asked one evening as Ray tucked him into bed. She was 6, and it was the first time either of them had asked so directly. Ray's heart clenched. He'd rehearsed this conversation countless times, but now that it was happening, words failed him. "You did have a mommy," he said finally, sitting on the edge of the bed. She had to go away. "Why didn't she take us with her?" Emma asked, her small face scrunching confusion. Ray took a deep breath. "Sometimes grown-ups make decisions that are hard to understand. Your mommy loved you very much, but she wasn't ready to be a parent. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You're both perfect. But you were ready to be a parent," Lily observed. Ray smiled, blinking back tears. "Being your dad is the greatest gift I've ever received. And I promise you, I will always be here. Always." That night, after the twins had fallen asleep, Ray dug out the small box he kept hidden in his closet, the one containing the few photos of Melissa he hadn't thrown away, her wedding ring, and the note she'd left. He thought about burning it all, as he had so many times before. Instead, he closed the box and put it back. Someday, the girls might want to know more about their mother. It wasn't his place to erase her completely, even if she had chosen to erase herself from their lives. "Dad," Emma pushed me. "I did not." "She's lying." Ray massaged his temples, trying to summon patience after a 12-hour workday. The twins were 13 now, navigating the treacherous waters of middle school with all its drama and hormone-fueled emotions. "Girls, please," he said, setting down his wrench. "I can't referee every argument. Can we try to work this out like the young ladies you're becoming?" Lily rolled her eyes dramatically, a new skill she perfected lately, while Emma crossed her arms with a huff. But after a moment, they grudgingly apologized to each other, their anger dissipating as quickly as it had flared. The teenage years were approaching like storm clouds on the horizon, and Ray often found himself wishing for a partner to help navigate these new challenges. The girls needed a woman's guidance for certain conversations, which led to some awkward but necessary discussions initiated by Ray, supplemented by books and Mrs. Parker's grandmotherly wisdom. "Dad, Sophia's having a mother-daughter spa day for her birthday," Lily announced one evening, her voice carefully neutral as she pushed food around her plate. Ray looked up, already feeling that familiar ache. "I see. When is it?" "Next Saturday." Lily avoided his eyes. "It's okay. I told her I couldn't go." "No, wait." Ray put down his fork. What if I call Sophia's mom and see if you can still participate? I know I'm not a mom, but..." "Dad, it's fine," Lily interrupted, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I don't want to make things weird." Later that night, Ray overheard the twins talking in their room. "It's not fair," Lily was saying. "Everyone else has a mom. Why did ours have to leave?" "We have Dad," Emma replied firmly. "He's better than any mom anyway." Ray leaned against the wall, his heart both breaking and swelling with pride. He'd never wanted his girls to feel different or less than their peers. But he couldn't change reality. Their mother had chosen to walk away, and he had chosen to stay. The following week, Ray surprised Lily with a father-daughter spa day, a homemade affair with face masks from the drugstore, nail polish in every color of the rainbow, and ridiculous cucumber slices over their eyes. Emma joined in, and soon all three were laughing so hard the cucumbers fell off. "This is way better than Sophia's party," Lily declared, decorating Ray's toenails with glittery purple polish. It wasn't always easy. The auto shop barely made enough to cover expenses, and Ray had to turn down a lucrative opportunity to expand, because it would have meant less time with the girls. But he found creative ways to make memories without spending money: camping trips in the backyard, movie nights with homemade popcorn, treasure hunts around the neighborhood. When Ray got sick with pneumonia during the twins' 8th grade year, it was Emma and Lily who rose to the occasion, making soup from a can and taking turns checking his temperature. They argued over who got assigned for a parts delivery and proudly told customers their dad was temporarily indisposed, a phrase they'd picked up from a period drama they'd been watching. "You two are something else," Ray said weakly from his bed, voice raspy from coughing. "We learn from the best," Emma replied, adjusting his blankets with the same care he'd shown them countless times. That night, as fevered dreams blurred the edges of reality, Ray had a moment of clarity. His greatest accomplishment wasn't surviving abandonment or keeping the business afloat. It was raising daughters who knew how to love fiercely and unconditionally, something their mother had never learned. Dad, I got in. Emma burst through the door of the garage, waving a letter in the air, her face alight with excitement. Ray slid out from under his Chevrolet, grabbing a rag to wipe his hands. The engineering program? Full scholarship. Emma was practically vibrating with joy. They loved my essay about learning mechanics from you. Ray pulled her into a bear hug, not caring about the grease stains transferring to her clothes. Pride swelled in his chest, momentarily drowning out the anxiety about his daughter leaving home in a few months. The twins were 17 now, on the cusp of adulthood. They'd grown into remarkable young women, different as night and day, yet equally determined and compassionate. Emma had inherited Ray's mechanical aptitude, spending hours in the garage learning every aspect of car repair. She'd even designed an improved diagnostic system that had saved them thousands on equipment costs. Her focus on engineering seemed natural, an extension of the skills she'd been honing since she was old enough to hold a wrench. Lily, meanwhile, had developed a head for business that constantly amazed Ray. She'd taken over the shop's bookkeeping at 15, streamlined their inventory system, and even created a website that had brought in new customers. Her acceptance to a prestigious business school came with a partial scholarship, leaving a gap that kept Ray awake at night. "I can take out loans, Dad," Lily insisted when she found him poring over financial documents long after midnight. "Or defer for a year and work." "Absolutely not," Ray said firmly. "We'll figure out. Your education comes first." He didn't tell her about the second job he'd taken, working security at a warehouse from midnight to 4 a.m., catching a few hours of sleep before opening the shop at 9. He didn't mention the meeting with the bank where they denied his loan application, citing insufficient collateral. And he certainly didn't tell her about the letter he'd written and then burned to Melissa's parents, swallowing his pride to ask for help before realizing he couldn't bear their inevitable rejection again. The girls had never met their maternal grandparents. After Melissa left, they'd made it clear they sided with their daughter, suggesting that Ray must have driven her away. The memory of that conversation still burned. "You were never good enough for her," Melissa's father had said coldly. "Always covered in grease, barely making ends meet. No wonder she left." Ray had hung up and never called again. He'd rather work himself to exhaustion than subject himself or his daughters to that kind of poison. As graduation approached, Ray threw himself into preparations, determined to make it special despite their limited budget. He repainted the apartment, hanging photos of the twins throughout their childhood first steps, lost teeth, science fairs, and dance recitals. A visual timeline of the life they'd built together. "You didn't have to do all this," Emma said, finding him late one night hanging the last frame. "I wanted to," Ray replied simply. "I'm so proud of you both." Emma leaned against his shoulder. "Mom really missed out, didn't she?" It was the first time either of the girls had mentioned their mother so directly in years. Ray carefully set down his hammer. "I think she did," he said quietly, "but that was her choice. And every day I'm grateful for my choice to be your dad, to watch you both grow into amazing women." The day before graduation, Ray was replacing a transmission when an unfamiliar luxury car pulled into his lot. Something about the vehicle made his stomach clench, a premonition he couldn't explain. "Wilson Auto Repair," he said, wiping his hands as a well-dressed woman stepped out. "How can I help you?" The woman smiled, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Catherine Reed, from Reed Automotive Group. I've heard excellent things about your work, Mr. Wilson." Ray's confusion must have shown on his face because he continued smoothly. "We're looking to expand our certified repair network, and your shop has been recommended." As they talked, Ray couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Ms. Reed's visit than a business proposition. Her questions were too personal, her interest in the twins too specific. When she casually mentioned knowing Melissa years ago, Ray's suspicions crystallized. "You're not here about a business opportunity, are you?" he asked bluntly. Catherine's professional smile faltered. "Not entirely, no. I am with Reed Automotive, but I'm also here as a favor to someone who wants to reconnect." Ray's heart hammered against his ribs. After 18 years? Why now? Perhaps that's a conversation for another time, Catherine said, glancing at her watch. I've taken enough of your day. Please consider our offer. It could be quite lucrative for your business. As she handed him her card, Ray noticed a wedding ring on her finger large, ostentatious. Nothing like the simple band he'd given Melissa all those years ago. Tell her, Ray said as Catherine turned to leave, that the girls are graduating tomorrow, top of their class. They've achieved that without her help or interest. They deserve to celebrate without complications. Catherine paused, her expression softening. She knows about their accomplishments, Mr. Wilson. She's kept track from a distance. After she left, Ray sat in his office for a long time, staring at the business card. The Reed Automotive Group was a chain of high-end dealerships and service centers throughout the Northeast, exactly the kind of glamorous career Melissa had always dreamed about while Ray was content with his small, independent shop. The timing couldn't be worse. The twins were about to graduate, to start their own lives. Did they need this disruption? Did they deserve to know their mother had been keeping track? Without actually being present, Ray tucked the card into his wallet. Tomorrow was about celebrating his daughter's achievements. Whatever decision he made about Melissa could wait until after graduation. To Emma and Lily Wilson, the small gathering of friends and neighbors raised their glasses in the twins' apartment, decorated with streamers and balloons for their graduation party. Ray beamed with pride, watching his daughters accept congratulations. They both looked so grown up in their caps and gowns, accepting their diplomas with confidence. If he'd shed a few tears during the ceremony, well, that was a father's prerogative. You've done an amazing job with them, Ray, Mrs. Parker said, squeezing his arm. They're going to take the world by storm. I just hope the world is ready, Ray joked, even as his chest tightened at the thought of his daughters leaving home in a few short weeks. The party was modest but joyful, a potluck dinner with homemade decorations and a cake Ray had baked himself, slightly lopsided but made with love. It was everything they could afford and exactly what they needed, a celebration of family and perseverance. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Ray found himself alone in the kitchen, washing dishes, and trying not to think about how quiet the apartment would be in September. Dad. Lily appeared in the doorway, her expression serious. There's someone outside asking to see you. A woman. Ray's hand stilled in the soapy water. Did she give a name? No, Lily said, frowning, but she seems to know you. She's in a really nice car. Ray dried his hand slowly, buying time to compose himself. Why don't you and Emma finish cleaning up in here? I'll see what this is about. The summer evening was warm, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink as the sun began its descent. Ray spotted the car immediately, a sleek, black luxury sedan parked across the street. As he approached, the driver's door opened. 18 years melted away in an instant. Despite the designer clothes and carefully styled hair, Ray would have recognized Melissa anywhere. She was older. Of course, fine lines around her eyes, a certain hardness to her features that hadn't been there before, but she was undeniably the woman who had walked out on him and their daughters. Hello, Ray, she said, her voice steadier than he expected. Melissa. He stopped several feet away, hands in his pockets. This is a surprise. I know I should have called first. Catherine said she spoke with you. She trailed off, glancing toward the apartment where light spilled from the windows. I saw the graduation announcement in the local paper. I wanted to see them, even if from a distance. Ray studied her face, searching for signs of the young woman he'd once loved enough to marry. Why now? After all this time? Melissa looked down, fiddling with an expensive-looking watch. I've been following their progress. Through mutual friends, social media. I know Emma is going to study engineering, and Lily's headed to business school. She hesitated. I'm proud of them. You don't get to be proud, Ray said quietly without anger. Pride is earned through sleepless nights, doctor visits, homework help, and showing up every single day. You chose to miss all of that. I know. Tears welled in her eyes. I was young and selfish and overwhelmed. I convinced myself they'd be better off without me. And now, Ray asked, what do you want? A chance, Melissa whispered. A chance to explain, to apologize, to see if there's any way I could be part of their lives, even in some small way. Ray was silent for a long moment, watching the last light of day fade from the sky. Part of him wanted to send her away, to protect his daughters from the pain he'd worked so hard to shield them from. But they weren't children anymore. They were young women who deserved to make their own choices. That's not my decision to make, he said finally. It's theirs. They're adults now. Would you ask them if they'd be willing to meet me? Melissa's voice cracked. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but... Mom! They both turned to see Emma and Lily standing on the sidewalk, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. Ray's heart sank. This wasn't how he'd wanted this moment to unfold. Girls, he said, moving toward them. I was just coming to talk to you about... It's her, isn't it? Emma interrupted, her eyes locked on Melissa. Our mother. Melissa stepped forward hesitantly. Emma? Lily? Yes, I'm your mother. The tension in the air was palpable as the twins stood frozen, processing the appearance of the woman who had existed for them only in a handful of photographs and vague memories. Why are you here? Lily asked, her voice uncharacteristically cold. I want to congratulate you on your graduation, Melissa said, and to apologize for everything. An apology? Emma's laugh was bitter. 18 years too late, don't you think? Ray watched his daughters, his heart breaking for them even as pride swelled in his chest at their strength. They were hurt, yes, but they were standing tall, facing this unexpected moment with the same resilience they'd shown throughout their lives. Girls, he said gently, why don't we all go inside and talk? Whatever happens next should be your decision, but maybe it's better to have this conversation in private. The twins exchanged a look, that silent communication they perfected over the years, before Lily nodded slowly. Okay, Dad, if you think we should. As they walked toward the apartment, Ray found himself hanging back, watching as his daughters led the way, their shoulders squared, their heads held high. They'd grown into incredible young women without their mother's presence. Whatever happened next, that achievement belonged to them, and to him. Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife as they settled awkwardly in the living room. Melissa perched on the edge of the couch, looking out of place among the worn but comfortable furniture. I don't know where to begin, she said finally, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. How about why you left? Emma suggested, her voice steady despite the emotion Ray could see in her eyes. Melissa took a deep breath. I was 22 when you were born. Your father and I were hardly more than kids ourselves. Two babies at once. I wasn't prepared for how overwhelming it would be. Dad was the same age, Lily pointed out. He managed. Your father is a stronger person than I am, Melissa said, glancing at Ray. I was selfish and immature. I convinced myself you'd be better off without me, that Ray would find someone who could be a better mother than I could. Did you ever think about us? Emma asked, did you ever wonder if we were okay? Every day, Melissa whispered. I kept tabs through mutual friends. I knew when you started school, when you won the science fair, when Lily was in the spelling bee. I have a file of newspaper clippings. But you never came back, Lily said flatly. You never called or wrote or tried to see us. I was ashamed, Melissa admitted. The longer I stayed away, the harder it became to imagine coming back. What could I possibly say to explain abandoning my own children? And then I heard about your college acceptances, and I realized I was about to miss another milestone. I couldn't bear it anymore. The room fell silent as the twins absorbed their mother's words. Ray watched them carefully, ready to step in if needed, but knowing this was their moment to process, to decide. I don't expect forgiveness, Melissa continued. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life, and not a day has gone by that I haven't regretted it. Emma stood abruptly. I need some air. She walked out onto the small balcony, closing the door behind her. I'll go talk to her, Ray said, starting to rise. No, Lily said, surprising everyone. I will. She followed her sister outside, leaving Ray and Melissa alone. They're incredible, Melissa said softly. "You've done an amazing job, Ray." "They did most of the work themselves," he replied. "They're strong, resilient, like their father." Melissa smiled sadly. "I want you to know, I never stopped thinking about you either. About what might have been if I'd been brave enough to stay." Ray shook his head. "We can't change the past, Melissa. All we can do is try to move forward." Through the window, they could see the twins in deep conversation on the balcony, their expression serious but not angry. After several minutes, they came back inside, a new resolve in their stance. "We've talked it over," Emma said. "We don't hate you, but we don't know you either. You're a stranger to us. But," Lily added, "we're willing to meet with you again, to talk, to see if there's something to salvage here." Melissa's eyes filled with tears. "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." As Ray showed Melissa out, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders, not completely gone, but lighter somehow. The girls retreated to their room, no doubt to process the emotional earthquake that had just rocked their world. Later that night, as Ray sat alone on the balcony, Emma and Lily joined him, one on each side like they used to do when they were small. "Are you okay, Dad?" Emma asked, resting her head on his shoulder. "I should be asking you that question," Ray replied. "We're okay," Lily assured him. "Confused, but okay." "You know," Emma said after a moment, "seeing her today made me realize something." "What's that?" Ray asked. "How lucky we are." She squeezed his hand. "To have you, to have someone who stayed, who put us first, always." "Yeah," Lily agreed. "Some people have two parents who don't really care. We had one who cared enough for two." Ray wrapped his arms around his daughters, tears stinging his eyes as he gazed up at the stars. He'd spent 18 years worrying he wasn't enough, that his girls were missing something essential without a mother's love. Perhaps they had been, but they'd gained something too, the unshakable knowledge that they were worth staying for, worth sacrificing for, worth loving completely. And in that moment, under the vast canopy of stars, Ray understood that sometimes the family you build from broken pieces is stronger than the one that was supposed to be. 5 years later, Wilson and Daughters Auto Solutions read the gleaming sign above the expanded garage. What had once been Ray's small repair shop had transformed into a thriving business with 3 locations across the county. Ray stood back, admiring the new electric vehicle charging station. They just installed Emma's latest project. At 23, she completed her engineering degree and returned home not to work for some fancy tech company, but to revolutionize the family business. "Dad, the new parts delivery is here," Lily called from the office, her business degree and natural leadership skills having helped them expand in ways Ray never could have imagined. The relationships between the twins and their mother had developed cautiously over the years, regular phone calls, occasional visits, a fragile bridge being built across the chasm of absence. They would never have the bond they might have had, but they had found a way forward that brought some measure of peace to all involved. As for Ray, he and Melissa had reached an understanding of sorts. The love they'd once shared was long gone, but the shared pride in their daughters provided common ground. "Mr. Wilson?" A young woman approached, looking nervous. "I was told you might be hiring. I'm between jobs and, well, I know a bit about cars. My dad taught me." Ray smiled, recognizing the same determination in her eyes that he'd seen in his own mirror all those years ago when he was struggling to make ends meet. "As a matter of fact, we are," he said. "And please call me Ray. Let me introduce you to my daughters. They handle the hiring these days." As he watched Emma and Lily interview the young woman, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here, the years of struggle, the nights of doubt, the endless sacrifices that had seemed so heavy at the time, but now felt like the wisest investments he'd ever made. His girls had grown into remarkable women who chose to build something together rather than chase individual success. They'd taken the lessons of their unconventional childhood resilience, creativity, unwavering love, and transformed them into strengths. That evening, as the 3 of them sat on the patio of Ray's new house, nothing fancy, but with a bedroom for each of them and a yard for summer barbecues, Emma raised her glass. "To Dad," she said, her eyes shining. who taught us that family isn't about who stays and who leaves, but about who loves you enough to put you first. To Dad, Lily echoed, who showed us that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best version of yourself. Ray felt his throat tighten with emotion as he raised his own glass. To us, he said simply. To the family we built together. Later, as the twins chatted about expansion plans and new technologies, Ray slipped away to a quiet corner of the yard. He took out his wallet and removed a worn photograph of the twins at 4 years old, on the day before their mother left. He'd carried it with him every day since, a reminder of what he was working for. Beside it, he now placed a new photo of Emma and Lily in their business attire, standing proudly in front of their latest location, their arms around each other and their father. The contrast between the two images told the story of their journey, from abandoned children to confident, successful young women, from a broken family to something new and beautiful and strong. Ray smiled, tucking both photos back into his wallet. The road had been long and often difficult, but standing here now, watching his daughters laughing in the golden light of sunset, he knew he wouldn't change a single step of their journey. Sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with heartbreak. Sometimes the most beautiful things are built from broken pieces. And sometimes the family you fight for becomes the greatest blessing of all. Music swells. Thank you for joining me for this journey of love, resilience, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspirational content. What moment in Ray's journey resonated with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one.